Welcome to the Amanda Seales Show, y'all. It's Amanda Seales here, and I am joined by our resident Blistorian, the Black historian. Yes, I know that you bristle every time, but you are a historian. It's Kimberly Renee.
What's up?
Bringing up some O-ish. I really love this segment because of obvious reasons, but also just in these days and times, it's just so important to remind folks of what they didn't remember and to tell folks what they didn't know.
Yes. And today we're talking about a word that's been discussed for days now. Political violence.
Political violence. Can't have that in America. Can we?
So,
Right.
I think it's important for us to look at episodes of political violence.
Not you and I also putting basically the exact same quote on Threads about this.
That's
like,
hilarious.
oh, they called
That's
each
hilarious. Yes. But we didn't, I promise.
We did not.
I promise. But let's talk about some Black activists who actually lost their lives because of this. And I might do a few, but not today. A few, just one today, and maybe a few a couple weeks from now. So when we think about political violence, we always think of Martin Luther King. We know him, Medgar Evers, Fred Hampton, to name a few. So let's talk about a lesser known gentleman. Reverend George Lee. Are you familiar with Reverend George Lee? I feel like you may be.
I'm not.
Okay, so Reverend George Lee is actually the man that many people consider the first martyr of the post-Reconstruction, modern civil rights era of Black people trying to register to vote. Some people consider him the first martyr of that era.
Okay.
When he was shot May 7th, 1955, it wasn't his ear that was hit, actually. The gunshots were fired into the cab of his car, and they ripped off the lower half of his face. So let's talk about who he is. So in addition to being a prominent businessman who owned a grocery store, he had a printing press in the back of his house with his wife. Obviously, Reverend George Lee, he's a pastor as well. He co-founded the Belzoni, Mississippi NAACP. Now, he served as its president for some time, and he was heavily involved in getting Black people to vote, and he leveraged his printing press and the pulpit to get it done. Nice. So, in fact, he was actually the first Black person in Humphreys County to register to vote, the first person that we know of, the first Black person post-Reconstruction. Wow. Now, Belzoni, now and then, is a primarily Black town, but 20 miles north of that, there's this place called Indianola, Mississippi. And in 1954, the year before George was murdered, the first White Citizens Council chapter was formed there. And so this is happening right after Brown versus the Board of Education. And so these segregationists, basically clan-light, were formed. And so because of his efforts in Black voter registration, the White Council was like, we need you to stop. This is not what we like. And he refused. He got a ton of death threats, as you'd expect. And on May 7th, just before midnight, as he was driving home, a convertible pulled up next to him, fired into his vehicle, broke his jaw, and sent him off the road. Now, his widow had an open casket ceremony.
Right.
Now, this happened about 3 months before Emmett Till would be murdered, 50 miles north in Drew, Mississippi. And so she also had an open casket ceremony. And they did that because it got news attention, because they wanted people to know the brutality that was happening in Mississippi. But that is the political violence that we have known since we got here, having to fight for and die for just the right to be treated exactly the same as white people.
I think when people think of political violence in this context, they've been talking about it more so just like, you're a politician and I'm a politician and there shouldn't be violence between politicians. And the truth is that there has been violence between politicians from day one in this country. But also political violence is political violence, whether it's between politicians or civilians or over a political matter, et cetera. And that's what this country is founded on.
For sure.
Well, I think that I'd like this to be a series. And I would love to hear about the brothers who attempted to actualize civil rights by joining the government and who were not able to do so because of the efforts of political violence.
Yeah, we could do
She's
that.
like, ooh, I got you.
But we
girl.
had one recently. I can't remember his name, but we had one. The guy who was the first one to sit in the House of Representatives, but he wasn't allowed to sit. John Maynard Willis. I think you were sick for that one, but you missed one. You missed one. You got to go back and listen.
Oh, I was sick for that one. But see, I'm on the wavelength though. See, I was on the wavelength, y'all. Man, look at that. Well, there y'all have it. Kimberly, Renee, thank you so much. Please let the people know where they can get more of all the brilliance that you have.
Of course. You can connect with me on Threads, Instagram, and TikTok at It's Kimberly Renee, or my website, KimberlyRenee.com.
There you have it, y'all. We'll be right back to the Amanda Seales Show. We're both talking like this. We up. The Amanda Seales Show.